Train the muscles, not the joints.
Welcome back to Natural Gland Bodybuilding Motion. And today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about getting bigger shoulders. So somebody in the comments just asked about getting bigger shoulders and how should they work that? Should they train every single head of the shoulder, every single workout? Or should they just concentrate more on one part of the shoulder or not, and stuff like that. So really the answer to this question always depends on what type of split you are doing. Like how are you splitting up the body in a given week? So obviously if you're giving the shoulders one whole day and you're working, say, chest and biceps on one day and back on another day and then legs on another day and then shoulders, you're basically doing 4 or 5 different days for the body. Well, yeah, you probably want to hit the majority of the entire shoulder, right? You might start with the rear delts. If your rear delts are weak, you would start with the rear delts first and maybe the side delts, and then strategically start to go into your compounds after that, because it is a form of pre-exhaustion, although it's not the exact way pre-exhaustion works. I had some smartass in the comments try to tell me how pre-exhaustion works, like I didn't know, right? I understand that normal pre-exhaustion is, okay, a side of lateral raises, then right away into shoulder press or something like that. But there's another way to do pre-exhaustion. One is to do several sets of an exercise, really fatigue a certain area, and then you move on to a compound, which also includes the muscle that you just fatigued with an isolation. That's another form of pre-exhaustion, although not the technical way of doing it in the same set, okay? So that's the difference. But what I am going to say is that if you're training the shoulders just on their own, you're doing some sort of bro split or a 4-day split or whatever, then yeah, you'd want to strategically try to hit all heads of the deltoid. But in my opinion, you should be concentrating more on the rear delt and the side delt rather than the front delt, because the front delt gets an enormous amount of action during the chest exercises. Whenever you're doing bench presses or inclines, you're going to be getting a lot of front delt. Now, if you're not finding that for yourself, then okay, this advice might not apply. But if you're noticing that your front delts get hit quite hard during your chest workouts, then I would say, hey, start concentrating on those rear delts and side delts during your deltoid workout. The other thing to look at, though, obviously, is where are you developing? Are your deltoids developing in the front at all, or the side, or whatever? Like if they're not developing at all anywhere, then I guess it just doesn't matter, right? Then hit them in whatever order you want. But if you're noticing there's a part of your shoulder that's lagging behind, then you know what? You might want to start with that or concentrate more effort on that area. Now, those of you who have been here for a while know that I usually train the body, in a 2-day split sort of form or a whole body workout. So that leaves me with not a lot of sets to do per body part. So usually what I do is I look at my physique, how it's developing, what feels tight, what feels sore, what feels exhausted, and then I say, how can I add to this experience by hitting those areas that are not so exhausted? So if I'm doing chest every single day, I'm probably getting a bit of front delt work. So it makes sense during my shoulder workout to use side delts or rear delts by doing bend over lateral raises, or do some rotator cuff exercises and work on that external rotation. And that is a better strategy to apply because, like I said, my front delts are already getting a lot of work from the chest. Now, that doesn't mean I never do shoulder presses. Of course, I'll do standing shoulder presses in the squat rack, but it's not my main priority. I'll just do that here and there, but my main priority is to make sure that the side delts, the rear delts, and the rotator cuff are hit in my workouts. And then once every second or third workout, I'll do some shoulder presses just to make sure I'm also hitting those front delts from a different angle. But in the end, if you're noticing that your shoulders aren't getting that round appearance, most likely you need to do more rear delt work or rotator cuff work. And that's something, a lot of people don't really tell you, is sometimes they'll do, hey, just do side delt work, and that's good too. But rotator cuff work is great because the rotator cuff muscles, they wrap around the shoulder. And when they get built up, not only do they help keep the shoulder in the joint so it's safer for you to do pressing movements without getting an injury, but also when the muscle builds up, it pushes the delt out a bit and gives it that 3-dimensional softball type look. So if you're really looking for that round deltoid, you want to really make the rear delts and the rotator cuff the priority, and then the side delts, and then lastly, the front delt. And that's how you're going to get better shoulder development overall. Now, the rear delts, there's lots of different movements. I usually do the bent over lateral raise with an external rotation involved, but you can also get on the rear delt machine and do some rear delts that way. And laying on your side and doing external rotator cuff exercises, funny enough, seems like it's such a rehabilitation exercise, but it also builds the delts really effectively. So you get more bang for your buck, right? You're not only getting better development in the deltoid, but you're also getting good rehabilitation work to make sure that the shoulders are not getting injured during your pressing movements. So that's the first advice I would give you when it comes down to building your deltoids. Too many people just work on pressing all the time. And let's face it, most of us are pressed to death, even though nobody is impressed with our press. If you're pressing lots and you're still not getting shoulder development, then my advice is to take my advice that I just said. The rear delty thingy and the rotator cuff thingy. Do that. Mountain. So yeah, I hope this helps you out in your training, guys. Thanks a lot for watching. If you need to get a hold of me, just go to naturalglandbodybuilding.com, and thanks to the page supporters, and take care for now. Mountain. Oh yeah.